I spent years exploring what makes certain places feel alive and others totally forgettable and unpleasant. And it turns out that it's not luck, it's design. Today, most new developments fail at becoming beautiful, livable places that function as magnets for people and businesses. You'll probably know these soulless places you'd rather avoid. And you might think it's hard to create something better, but it might be easier than you think. In this video, I'm going to show you 5 urban design tactics that can turn any place into a vibrant, magnetic environment people love. And of course, we'll use real-world examples and multiple studies to support these principles. So let's discover these secrets and start off with one of the most powerful and perhaps controversial design tactics. Number 1. Making space for the pedestrian. Look at these places. And now compare it to these places. It's obvious what the problem is here. You might think it's just cars. Well, it's not the cars themselves per se, but the complete, utter domination of the car in these places. We have to accept that cars have an important place in modern cities, and we can't just wish them away. But the way they are given free rein over everything else is what destroys the attractiveness of many places. The more a place feels like a car park or a highway, the less it feels like a pleasant place to stay. Full pedestrianization can totally transform places into peaceful, pleasant environments. But getting rid of cars isn't always easy or possible at all. In that case, a road diet is a great option to still vastly improve a place. By giving the pedestrian more space with wider sidewalks, creating a green median and adding a cycling lane, you'll achieve a huge effect. So here's a final checklist. If pedestrianization is possible and suitable for a place, it's the best option. Otherwise, apply a road diet. Number 2. Enclosure and continuous edges. Compare this urban space with this one. And now compare this urban space with this one. Do you see the difference? The first ones make you feel like you're in a barren no man's land, while the second spaces make you feel like you're in a warm, snuggly embrace. The difference you're seeing has to do with the degree of enclosure. Now, what do I mean by that? Imagine a space, like a street or a square, as a container holding water. A container can only hold water if it has walls. What happens if you take away these walls? Well, the water would flow away. The same happens with urban space. In cities, the walls that contain space are normally buildings, but can also be trees, hedges, walls or cliffs. They create this feeling of being sheltered, of being in a sort of urban room. Take these walls away and the space flows away, making the city feel less defined and less urban. It's why many modern post-war developments don't really feel like a traditional city. Look at these maps of ancient medieval cities and see how tight they are, how every opening in the urban fabric is surrounded by buildings. Many newly designed places don't create this pleasant sense of enclosure though, and it is one of the reasons why so many new developments feel unpleasant. So how do we fix it? The rule is very simple. Create a continuous edge around open spaces to define them. Buildings are just one option. Like I said, tall trees can be another option, or walls, or even arcades and colonnades. Look how at Place des Vosges in Paris the square is almost completely closed in. 2 of the streets are open, but the other 2 are accessible through gates. Now this doesn't mean that an open place cannot be pleasant, but we're talking about places that are supposed to be urban here, not a park, a beach or a suburb. Why does it work so well though? Well, people display wall-hugging behavior, also called thigmotaxis, which means that we like to stay near edges because they provide safety. It's the effect you see in squares or at parties. People avoid the center of open space and are drawn towards the edges. So create a continuous edge around open spaces to define them and use buildings, walls, colonnades, arcades, trees or natural features to achieve this. Now let's move on to the most powerful and simple trick in our book, one that makes cities more beautiful, healthy, safe and valuable. Street trees. In which place would you prefer to live? In this one or in this one? If you chose for the first, you're not alone. Nature is one of the most powerful creators of attraction in our toolkit. Humans love nature, and it's no wonder because as a species we've lived amongst nature for most of our existence. Greenery is most effective when it is nearby and when you can see it. So a big park that lies far away doesn't make a lot of difference if you live in a concrete jungle. It's better to spread greenery out, and one of the best ways to do that is by planting lots of street trees. So why are street trees so amazing? First of all, they improve road safety. Trees along roads are registered as obstacles, causing drivers to slow down. And according to a study in central Toronto, this leads to less car crashes. Trees also improve air quality as they act like air filters and cool cities down by providing shade and through evapotranspiration. People also aesthetically prefer streets with trees in them, according to this study. There's even a study showing that street trees lower the rates of antidepressant prescribing. Finally, homes overlooking greenery gain more value. So use street trees to improve basically every aspect of a street or place. And yes, there are beautiful squares and streets without trees. But if you got to transform a place, greenery is a powerful tool. Now let's look at one of the most often overlooked elements in making places pleasant. Active frontage. Look at how this building engages with the street. Or look at this street. Or this one. How does this make you feel? Now look at this street. Or this one. Or this one. Do you see the difference? What I just showed is the difference between inactive frontage that kills vibrant street life and active frontage that supports it. And is insanely important. To create a nice place, you need buildings to have a beautiful interface with the streets, squares or plazas they surround and border. But how do we do that? Well, great active frontage consists of three crucial elements. The first one is simply having doors, entries and windows that look out on the street. No long stretches of blank concrete walls, but walls punctuated by doors and windows. Second is vertical articulation. Long monotonous strips of glass feel alienating and aren't as engaging, so it's better to break up the strong horizontal focus with vertical elements. And you can see it in these examples.
So this is one of the most bleak examples of a terrible design at eye level. It's a completely blank wall, so there's not any interaction between the building and you as a pedestrian. So you have to walk all this way along this completely blank facade. There's no one keeping an eye out on you. There's no front doors. Every front door is an opportunity for interaction. It's a place where someone could come out, say hi, or where someone could put their chair next to the door and sit there just to enjoy life. An office building doesn't have to be like this. An office building can also open its face to the street. It can have like a grand entree. You can have windows here, more vertical accentuation instead of this long horizontal design. If you walk here, it's just an extremely long, boring place to walk. So it doesn't invite you to walk, it invites you to hop into the car and go somewhere else.
But even with vertical articulation, you're not there yet. You also need a pleasant architectural treatment of the lower part of the building. Pleasant classical proportions, for example, and a composition with a clear base, middle and top. Applying a plinth as a transition between the facade and the ground. Using warm colors and natural materials. Glass can be used, but needs to be applied in the right way. Instead of having glazing that's flush with the facade, it's better to have recessed windows. Preferably with glazing bars. It's best when they begin a little bit above the ground. Finally, there's little details like doorknobs that can have a big effect on how the building is experienced. It's the things that people see first when they walk up to a building. So if these are nice, people will feel pleasant nearby it. So, for amazing active frontage, do the following. Use doors, entries and windows on the ground floor. Apply vertical articulation. And finally, have a proper architectural treatment with plinths, classical proportions, intricate details and natural materials. Finally, let's move on to the last trick that might seem like a detail, but is transformative for the experience of cities. Detailing of public spaces. As you might have noticed, most modern public spaces are equipped with minimalist, sterile and quite boring street furniture, like lighting fixtures, benches, rubbish bins and bollards. They make places feel alienating and bare, and lead to places where you feel like you're just a cog in a machine. While some of the most popular and pleasant places had beautifully crafted and ornamental street detailing. The same goes for street surfaces. Standardized concrete tiles, big concrete slabs or asphalt have replaced cobblestones and other more elegant and textured types of paving. It might seem trivial, but actually there's research as to why it's actually better to use more ornament and details, both in architecture and street furniture. According to this study, humans like these natural shapes as they have fractal qualities. Fractals are the self-repeating patterns we find everywhere in nature, from coastlines to plants to the veins in our bodies. Looking at fractals doesn't cost any extra effort. On the other hand, fields of parallel lines and other abstract shapes are unnatural, and we normally don't see them in nature. The abstract shapes, which we find in minimalist architecture and street detailing, have been shown to require heavier visual computation and raise metabolic activity in our brains. In other words, they cause constant, low-level stress. Therefore, it's best to always bring some nature into our designs, like curves and natural motifs. By the way, readers from our newsletter The City Builder's Blueprint already know this, as we have dedicated an entire edition to these findings. So to conclude, use ornamental street detailing that refers to nature and choose better materials for street surfaces to introduce texture. Now you know 5 powerful ways to make pleasant places. If you liked this, subscribe. There will be more videos like this in the future. And if you couldn't get enough of these actionable tips, you'll absolutely love the academy we created, where we go into much more detail. It combines 10,000 years of urban planning history, countless books, expert knowledge from interviews and visits to cities around the world into the most beautiful, intuitively understandable course for all levels. And it's getting raving reviews. So click the link below to join. Thank you for watching and see you next time.